Okay, so today we are here with Evie Pagliarulo, Italian.
Yes.
So before we kind of start talking about what it is you do, can you give us a little bit of background on kind of yourself and how you got into this kind of work and what drove you towards this kind of field?
Yeah, so my background, I've been an expat since the day I was born. So I grew up in Libya, I grew up in Iraq, did some stints in the UK, and then sort of fell into the corporate world because, you know, that's kind of expected of you. You go to university, you get a job, you just do what you need to do. So I was quite lucky actually that my job took me around the world. So I did 10 plus years in Asia. I did 2 years in Mauritius. Did some,
wow.
yeah, did some
Quite
other.
Nice.
It was nice. No, I'm not going to complain about that. But in finance, very high level. I loved what I did at the time, but I knew that there was a sort of end date on it. I always had so much gratitude for the journey that it took me on, but I knew that it wasn't lighting me up and I knew that I was here for more. I think one of the catalysts to starting to change my life was when I lost a very, very close friend to suicide. And it made me realize that there are so many people walking around without hope. So many people that are really unfulfilled and existing, sort of surviving rather than thriving. I was already a yoga teacher, so that was something that I'd started to kind of explore when I was in Asia. I had this very, very intense job. I realized that the only sort of solace I had, the only peace I had was that 1 hour on a yoga mat every day. And it started to take me down a journey of the mind and the body and energetics. But at that point, the last thing I was ever thinking about was becoming a coach. I just wanted to understand more about that kind of mind, body, soul connection. I realized that my clients through the yoga were having major breakthroughs. I mean, it was just profound, everything that they were experiencing. And I guess that was definitely the seed that then took me on a bigger journey. And having lost my friend in such a tragic way was probably the step I needed to go, you know what, that's it. I want to help people. I don't want to just keep helping people the rich people get richer, which is what I was doing.
Yeah.
I wanted to help people get richer mentally and become a resource that's accessible to everybody, and also to help people understand that there is another option, there is another way. If therapy doesn't feel right, if that's not what you're being called for, there are other resources out there, and there are people that actually care, that want you to succeed. And COVID was...
How difficult was it to kind of, because it's one thing to kind of think to yourself, okay, I want to and need to make a change, but then to actually physically do that and to kind of give up basically the money and the security is a different kettle of fish altogether, isn't it? How was that? How did that process work from going from one thing to the other?
So for me, COVID happened.
Okay.
I was already, to be honest, I was already at the point. I had been in Africa. I'd had this job that, you know, the world and its mother was promised to me. I got there, that didn't happen. And I had already decided, I think at that point, that I didn't want to be in corporate anymore. I didn't want to be doing finance anymore. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that exact point, other than I wanted to get out of this. And I came back to the UK to study, to do actually a business diploma. Did my business diploma in supersonic speed and started applying for jobs. And it was very, very half-heartedly. I wouldn't even say it was half-heartedly. It was 20% of me was sending out these CVs, but at the same time thinking this isn't what I want to be doing. I want to be helping people. And so I started my coaching qualifications. I started studying neuroscience. And funnily enough, although I believe in universal energy, I wasn't getting any of the jobs I applied for. I must have applied for about 200 jobs. And
really?
Yeah, just insane. And every single job I just kind of went phew. I did job interviews that I know I did well, but I didn't get the job. And the more it went on, the more I'm kind of smiling to myself, going, this is it. You need to take the lead. Things are not working out for a reason. And COVID was definitely a catalyst to it. Everything sort of happened about the same time. I recognize in a way that it would have been a lot harder to do it. But I also really spent the time digging deep into what lights me up. What am I doing with my life? If my life was to end today, would I be really happy with how I've spent the last year, 3 years, 5 years? And the answer was no. I was so grateful. But as scary as it was at that time, I knew I had to do it for my mental health. I was crashing. And the thought of continuing as I was going was actually scarier than taking the chance.
Right.
That saying, I always come back to that saying, what if I fall? But what if you fly? What if it's the best decision you've ever made? And you'll only know if you try. So as terrifying as it was to step away from the salaried type role, I knew that there was no other choice, because this is what I wanted to do. This is what I was here to do.
And once you'd made that decision, did it feel like a massive kind of weight had been lifted off your shoulders, or
It did, to step away from,
in amongst being terrified?
yeah, you go through the imposter syndrome. You go through, I think this is in a way why I work so well with my clients, because when I say I really understand what you've gone through, I really understand what you go through. Like, I've been through that whole journey, and it was absolutely terrifying. I mean, it still is. When I look at my projections for next year, they're terrifying, but more than terrifying, they excite me. And I think once you realize that fear and excitement measure on exactly the same level, it's just how the mind interprets it. I choose to flip the switch and go with excitement.
Okay. So you say kind of on your website and in your kind of description about what you do, is that you're a mindset, empowerment and confidence coach. So if I was coming to you as a potential client and I had no idea what that meant, how would you explain that to me? And what are the kind of things that you help people with, and how do you do that? I know it's kind of a big question.
Yes, I'm really smiling because I've just started working with a brand storyteller and a brand strategist, and we've been going through all these titles. And I mean, my titles change from a life architect to a transformation coach to a soul aligned mindset coach. You name it, I've become everything. And what it boiled down to was, I'm simply a change your life coach.
Right.
It is that in a nutshell. That is what is written on the tin, and that's what you can expect. So when clients come to me, they have typically reached a point where they have had enough. They've had enough of maybe feeling stuck, feeling disempowered. They feel that maybe they're fighting with people in the house all the time. They're snapping at their kids or their partner. They feel stuck, sort of one foot in the past. It's almost like they're a ship that wants to sail, but there's something holding them back. And a lot of the times they don't know what it is. They just know that no matter what they do, no matter what they try, they're not moving forward. Their reality isn't changing. And a lot of the times, especially sort of in the area where I live, they have a lot. They might have the house and the kids and the car and all the things that surface level you think that should make you happy, but they're not. Because they're meant for more than that. And so when I work with my clients, it's very much about giving them the permission to be exactly where they need to be, to remove any labels that they feel they need to be carrying or affiliating to. Comparisonitis is the thief of joy. So much with social media. I work with so many people that maybe want to step up more in social media, want to get more confident, but fear of failure, the judgment, what are they going to think about me? You know, people pleasing is a huge one. So working with people that tend to say yes to everything and then
Yeah.
end up drowning under workloads and family life and personal life. And so it's working with all of those dynamics, which basically boils down to being confident enough to walk into any room and know that your story is there to be told.
Yeah.
So
And do you find, I mean, it's something I've always thought, that do you find that a lot of, or most people actually haven't really thought very clearly about what it is that they want, let alone finding a route to get to that point?
absolutely. And it's really one of my bugbears, which is why I'm starting to sort of try to get myself out there more to the teens, because I find that we are told what enough looks like, you know, what we should be living like, but we don't know what we want. And the more we try to conform to what society tells us, to what social media tells us, to maybe what our parents or those closest to us tell us, the more we lose that connection with self. And we are becoming more and more a society where there is external connection and no connection to what really lights us up. What is it that makes us happy?
Mm.
And I think until we start to learn how to even explore that, or how to know that the life you're living, it could be so much more. People are struggling, people are drowning, people are not coping with the life that they're living, but they don't know why. They think
Mm.
there's wrong with them, and actually you're not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. It's just you might be a square peg trying to fit into a round hole, and you are never meant for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's complicated, though, isn't it? I mean, it's a difficult thing to kind of to get across to people. You know, that whole concept of, you know, how do you want to be happy? People don't really think about it.
They don't. And I think the thing that really breaks my heart so many times, and it happens time and time again, and I think that's what I want people to know, is you're really not alone in this, is when I ask people what makes you happy, or what does happiness look like to you, the amount of people that say, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know. And so there's so many starting points with this. And you know, gratitude is one of those things where people kind of scoff, because it's so, these words are so thrown around, but starting to recognize the little things you do have, and we have so many of them. You know, the food that we were able to eat, the house, you know, the roof over our head, the fact that we can actually physically walk places, we have all our limbs. Like, there's so many places to start with, but a lot of it can also boil down to sometimes releasing things from the past that we hold so strongly in our subconscious mind, that they don't allow us to experience the present moment with all the joy that we should be.
yeah, yeah. And do you find, I mean, are you using, because I've talked to quite a few people, and this whole idea of a kind of holistic approach to mental health allied to physical health, is something that seems to be getting more and more kind of common. Do you use your kind of work that you've done in the past with yoga? Do you kind of combine the two, or you're not looking to do anything like that at the moment?
I am an intuitive. I'm also a healer, and I get a lot of sort of different types of downloads when I'm working with clients. So it is never just a cookie cutter approach.
Mm.
The yoga is definitely a sideline business for me. It's still something that I absolutely love. I love working with healing. Yoga is a healing tool. When it comes to my actual coaching clients, not so much, but I'm very in tune with their physical energetics. So if I'm ever called to a certain part of the body, I can see the energy blocks within them, then I will potentially use other modalities. But it really is down to it's so bespoke. You know,
Yeah,
there are clients that absolutely would not be open to that at all. And so that is not a path that I take them down, because the space I want to create is the safest most nurturing but also empowering environment. So I will never take a client out of their comfort zone. But if I'm allowed to fully get into my woo, then I'm using spirituality, I'm using energetics, I'm using physiology, neuroscience, as well as a very strong intuitive practice to help my clients get the absolute maximum results.
Yeah. And did you find that it's, I mean, the thing that I found when I was doing my training, coming like you from a corporate background, is to go that difference between in the corporate environment of being able to say to people, this is what has to be done, this is how you're going to do it, please go and do that, to going into the coaching environment where it's very much non-directional and everything has to come from within the client. Did you find that a difficult kind of transition to make?
I did. I mean, I definitely say sometimes it's good. There's a lot out there in the coaching world about, you know, never give suggestions. It's down to the client. I am a lot more fluid with that because I think this is very much an interactive process. I definitely want my client to uncover what's best for them, but I will also give suggestions if I feel that they could be of benefit. Simply because I've been doing this for a while, I've worked with hundreds of people, and I do tend to give homework and suggestions like that. And that's a little bit more, I guess, where I steer it. But it is very different. I am somebody who really wants my clients to get their maximum results. So it's hard sometimes sitting back and allowing them to go through the process, especially when they need to do it. But my sessions are very interactive, as well as exploratory, and because of the way that I handle them, the results tend to be quite rapid and radical, because of the journey that I take them through.
And so do you, kind of knowing what you know now and the kind of the journey that you've been on to get to where you are and the job you're doing now, if you could go back and think again, what is it that you would have liked to have done with the knowledge that you have now, if it's something different?
Do you know, I think it's a really good question, and it's one I think about a lot because I've had a very, very big life. Not always in the nicest way, but all of that has taken me to the point that I am at. Is there anything I could change? Would I go back and change any of it? No, because I wouldn't be who I am with the knowledge that I have and the lessons that I've learned, which all come into the work that I do. I mean, if I knew at 20 what I know today, I'd be ruling the world. But I also love the journey that I've been on. I guess what's taken me 20 years to uncover, I want to be able to help my clients get there in weeks. If I hadn't been through everything that I've been through, I wouldn't be able to say that with so much confidence. So I'd love to have had that knowledge at 20, but I also needed those 20 years to really understand my journey and what's the most important thing for me, and what legacy do I want to create, what impact do I want to make, what value do I offer the world, and what value do I want to give people, you know, what do I want to help them achieve? And that's something that was born out of the last 20 years.
So no secret desires to be an international surfer or space astronaut?
Considering the amount of shark attacks right now, probably not. The thought of kind of floating around in space like a crazy person, no. I'm good. I'm good with where I'm at. I'm honestly so focused on the next year and what I'm going to create that I wouldn't change it. I mean, ideally, I'd already like to be 5 years ahead and on international stage and doing a TED talk. But again, I'm not ready.
Live in the present, don't forget.
You know, it's going to happen, but I'm not ready yet. And so if you were to give me all my desires today, I wouldn't know what to do with them. I wouldn't be ready for them. So I work very much with a full focus on that I want to achieve, and taking every single day action. I think I'm more motivated today than I have ever been in my life.
Oh, well, that's great, isn't it? That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. That's fascinating. That's been very interesting.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me for this chat. It's been brilliant.
No problem at all.